Time has a way of becoming a silent loop if we aren't careful, a repeating melody that lulls the soul into a deep sleep. For Thatcher, a man with hair the color of winter clouds, life had shrunk to a single park bench at Stonebridge Commons. Every afternoon at exactly 2 o'clock, Thatcher walked the same pavement stones to that same weathered wooden seat. He never sat alone, joined by Killian, Sutton, and Meredith, 3 souls bound by the same invisible chains of habit. They sat shoulder to shoulder like statues in wool coats, barely speaking because words were no longer necessary. Their eyes were always fixed forward, staring at a massive, windowless brick wall of an old decommissioned textile mill. Occasionally, a patch of moss grew greener or a new crack appeared, and that constituted the day's excitement. To them, this wall was the world, a safe shield from the wind and, more importantly, from the unknown. Behind them lay the rest of the city, the forests, and the horizon, but they never once turned around. The wall was their comfort zone, a sturdy and predictable boundary that demanded nothing but their presence. One Tuesday, a day that started like 10,000 others, Thatcher arrived to find the unthinkable happened. The great bench was occupied by a group of boisterous travelers with colorful scarves and heavy rucksacks. They were laughing and sharing bread over a map, leaving no room for Thatcher and his cherished silence. Killian, Sutton, and Meredith hovered nearby like ghosts, looking lost and slightly offended by the intrusion. They waited for the strangers to leave, but the travelers were clearly settled in for a very long haul. Thatcher felt a surge of uncharacteristic irritation as his routine armor had finally been pierced. He considered going home, but the thought of his quiet apartment felt like a different kind of cage. Instead, he walked to a small hardware shop and purchased a simple, sturdy wooden folding chair. He carried it back to the park, but he didn't join his friends in their silent vigil by the occupied bench. Instead, he wandered, his legs feeling heavy as they protested this sudden deviation from the familiar path. He walked past the bench, past the shadow of the brick mill, and climbed a grassy incline he had ignored for years. He unfolded his chair at the crest of the hill and sat down, closing his eyes with a racing heart. When he finally opened them, the breath left his lungs because of the sheer beauty before him. Below him, bathed in the amber glow of the setting sun, was a valley he had long forgotten existed. A river ribboned through the landscape, sparkling like liquid silver under the fading sunlight. Beyond the water stood a ridge of ancient oaks, their leaves turning gold and crimson in the autumn air. The sky was a cathedral of violet, orange, and pale yellow, stretching infinitely into the distance. He looked back toward the great bench, and from this vantage point, he could finally see his friends. They were still standing there, staring at the back of the brick wall, unaware of the symphony of light behind them. They were staring at a dead end while paradise sat right behind their shoulders, ignored and unseen. Thatcher realized then that the wall wasn't protecting them from the world, but protecting the world from them. Their comfort had become a blindfold, preventing them from experiencing the true greatness of life. The next day, Thatcher didn't go back to the bench. He took his chair to the cliffs by the Atlantic Ocean. He watched the white foam of the waves crash against jagged rocks, smelling the salt on the wind. It was terrifying at first, the cold wind and vast ocean making him feel small and insignificant. But in that insignificance, he found a strange, electric freedom he had never felt before. He was no longer a man waiting for the end of the day. He was a witness to the greatness of the earth. As weeks turned into months, Thatcher's folding chair became the ultimate symbol of his liberation. He took it to wildflower meadows in the spring, where the scent of jasmine felt like a vivid dream. He took it to bustling city squares, watching the choreography of students, musicians, and neon lights. He learned that every time he set his chair in a new place, the borders of his soul expanded. One evening, Thatcher returned to the Commons, and saw his friends still staring at the same brick wall. The wall hadn't changed, but they looked smaller, more fragile, and frozen in their ancient routine. Thatcher approached them with his chair, inviting them to turn around and see the fire in the trees. But they refused, fearing the wind and the steep walk, clinging to the steady safety of their wall. Thatcher left his friends and walked toward the horizon, knowing the comfort zone is a graveyard for potential. He understood that courage is realizing something else is more important than the fear of being uncomfortable. Life is not defined by the walls that surround us, but by the courage we find to leave them behind.